oh boy, oh boy. It's Valley Ride.
It is indeed Valley Ride. Alright, so I wanted to do something a little different here. First of all, I'm doing a voiceover, and I'm actually editing a video with real video editing software. And to make that easier, I'm now rolling my own data overlays with some software I've been working on with my fellow writing buddy, Josh. I wanted to walk you through something called Valley Ride, which is a fast local group ride or race simulation ride. So that means it's a drop ride that the local teams, typically people who are racing this season, will come out to, and they'll use as a form of training, both in terms of doing their high intensity work, but also to do sorts of things like practicing. It's sort of like a race scrimmage, like a race tactics scrimmage for people. So I think about Valley Ride as being kind of a build your own race. So there are these little climbs that people will sprint for. There's a big 5 minute climb that's sort of kind of a centerpiece of the whole ride. After that, there's a little regroup and a few more climbs, followed by a sprint and a big finale sprint. And you can make any of these or any subset of these your goal for the ride. So you can decide to contest the sprint at the very end, or some of the intermediate sprints, or maybe you want to go for that big hill climb KOM. So this is a ride I've done many times in the past, like years ago, back when I was racing competitively for the Stanford team. Since then, I've been taking it chill and basically sort of had this goal of, I call it a drop of the hat century. So someone says, hey, let's do a 100-mile ride this weekend, and I want to always feel like I can say, yeah, I'll show up for that, and I'll finish it confidently, and I won't be the slowest one holding up the group. The reason I decided to come back to this ride is because basically my drop of the hat century ride goal was getting kind of stale, and I wanted a new challenge, something new to motivate me to ride even harder than I've been doing. While I've been doing those long, slow 100-mile rides, this group has only gotten faster, and I could see that just looking at everyone's Stravas. So the best analogy for the difficulty of the ride at this point is that it's a men's Category 3 road race that will sometimes break up or sprint up to like a men's Category 2 road race. So at this point in the ride, we're just rolling out, we're chatting, catching up. It's not really a race yet. And I take this opportunity to make sure I'm up near the front. I'm on my buddy John's wheel, who is also a Stanford rider, and I'm just trying to make sure I'm not at the back and experiencing all of the yo-yo acceleration and braking that will happen sometimes in large groups when they're not moving very fast. That said, this ride is a lot smaller than it used to be, so it used to be like a 30-person ride, but it's come down to maybe 18 or so riders after the ride ceased to operate during the coronavirus pandemic. But as you can see, people are getting vaccinated, restrictions are coming down, and Valley Ride's been back up and running. So the smaller group, it makes things a little less intimidating and maybe makes things feel a little less sketchy, but it also makes it a lot harder of a ride because, if you lose 10 positions, you're off the back already. If a group of 8 goes up the road, it's not a breakaway. That's Valley Ride going up the road, and you need to regain contact with that to stay on the ride. So today my goal here, and this, by the way, this is the sketchiest part of the whole ride. This is why we're not really racing yet. We got to get across this big road, got to get across this on-ramp onto a major freeway. But now that that's done, my goal here is to try to stay on at a section known as Mountain Home, which I'll point out. So this is actually the second time I've come out to the ride. In my attempt, the first attempt I didn't record video. I was just kind of feeling things out, and my goal was just to just discover at what point of the ride I crack and where I get dropped. But this time I know where I got dropped last time. It was Mountain Home, which was more than halfway through the ride, and this time I'm just trying to not get dropped at the start of this more intense section and hang on until the next difficult section, which is the 5-minute climb that I mentioned earlier. All right, we're coming up on the right turn where the real riding kind of starts, and you can already see they're pedaling hard into the turn. They're trying to accelerate, putting down quite a few watts. They're going to chill out in a second. The goal isn't to drop everyone already at this stage in the ride, but they are already trying to make things more difficult. They're at the front. They have an advantage coming through the turns first, and they're going to use that because they have a disadvantage having to pull us all around. Trying my best here to stay on my sort of teammate teammate John's wheel. I know he's more than capable of just completely destroying me and hammering way harder than I ever could on this ride. I mean, he's just chatting, having a good time, and I'm like totally nervous back here, to be honest. And this is a good example of one of the things that I really appreciate about this ride, and this has always been true about this ride compared to the other rides in the area. They do a really good job calling out obstacles. Like they just they take the safety aspect very seriously without being kind of overly performative about it. So if there's an obstacle that's actually going to be dangerous or unexpected, they call it out. If there's another rider, I think we've seen this already, they call it out. They don't just swarm past them or like get out of the way, slowpoke, or anything like that. I don't think any of the rides I ride with have would do anything like that. But I have seen some. Why did we pass this random dude on a hybrid bike? So fast and so close. That wasn't necessary. And these guys would never do anything like that. What they would do is go charge up the very first little hill in the whole ride, putting me at like 400 watts. Maybe to add a little bit of perspective here, I'm doing 600 watts already on these little rollers. My FTP at this point, as far as I know, based on the couple hard efforts that I've done, again, I haven't really been training leading up to this, my FTP should be around like 275. And it goes up a little bit. I can get more out of myself on hills, but not like little rollers like this. So 275, and I'm looking down and I'm seeing like double that. The only thing that I like about the situation is that I know that this is the last hill. This is the crest. After this, it's a descent. I just have to make sure I crest this in someone's draft, and I do. I'm right behind someone, but I'm second wheel, and I'm pretty happy with that now because I'm thinking I'm avoiding all this rubber band effect and all this surging and relaxing that goes on in bigger groups. But in retrospect, I don't think this was a particularly smart move. And you can see what's happening. Like this is a descent. I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna get to recover a little bit. I am doing 0 watts right now, but boom, I'm already doing watts again because these guys are not recovering. They don't need to take it easy. So they're doing like 30 miles an hour. I think they'll get up to like 33 miles an hour in this section. And this should be making me realize that there's no rubber banding in this ride. I mean, there's like 18 riders or so on this ride, maybe even less, and you can be all the way at the back of that, and with this much drive at the front of the group, the back of the group is going to be working. Everyone's going to be putting down watts. No one's going to be coasting. Now we're coming up on our first tactical feature of the ride, which is a right-hander into a stop sign. And at this point in the ride, if you got dropped, you could potentially just fall off the back a little bit and take it easy, hoping that the group has to spend some time at this stop sign. But sometimes there's no cars here and no traffic, and they just zip right through. So it's a gamble you can take if you're already feeling you know, like maybe you didn't warm up enough or the groups decided to go super hard here today. But I decided to try really hard not to take that gamble because I have no idea like how far I'm going to make it through the ride. So I'm just trying to stay on at every point. I'm not really thinking about how much can I sneak by and leave in the tank for later. We've been going uphill for a couple minutes already at this point, doing some pretty high wattage. This is another really common point for the ride to break up or for riders to get drops. This is kind of a final climb into a stop sign, but it's a fast stop sign. People don't have to wait very long often. It's just a right hand at the stop. And this is, I think, the first big separation point of the first big challenge of the ride. Oh, so this was sort of a fun thing that happened. There's still some COVID restrictions going on in the schools. We just had graduation, so they're throwing the local kids in the town a graduation celebration by driving them around and having people come out and honk their horns and celebrate.
Oh, hey.
But I was more than happy to pretend that all the commotion was, we're just a race, and these are all the fans cheering us on. Come on, just get to that stop sign at the top of the climb. Here I'm kind of making an effort to stay near the back, and I'm actually not as successful as I think I should be in doing that. Now I'm starting to feel a little bit worried because this hill is a hill that, for whatever reason, like I remember being really strong on, and here I'm basically getting dropped by the group. I think there might be a rider or two behind me, but Valley Ride here is so small that this really might be the whole group. I'm not actually sure, even in retrospect. But I see something I like here as well, which is my buddy Jay on the right, who was another former Stanford rider. I haven't seen him in forever, so it was really neat to just have him appear out of the corner of my eye all of a sudden. And I'm feeling a little bit better. I think I figured out a good wheel. So basically someone who I've spent a couple minutes riding behind, and I'm like, okay, this person is like, putting down a pretty consistent effort, pretty smooth effort. As we all know, smoother is faster. Um, and seems to be able to, seems to be pretty happy keeping their position, kind of hanging out towards the back. And they're not like a tiny person. They're not like a, 4.5 feet tall, and I'm barely getting any kind of a draft. Yeah, even in this descent section, I really want to recover. My heart rate's starting to come down. I'm starting to recover just a little, but not nearly enough. I mean, we're still going like 35 miles an hour through most of this section. So I guess we can start to do some more character introductions here. So we got Jay riding behind Elena, who happens to be one of these 4.5 feet tall tiny people, providing Jay absolutely no draft at all. But when it comes to the climbs and the steep sections, I mean, she's super, super fast. And this is where I learned that was super wrong about my good wheel. My good wheel takes off at a standing sprint in a descent, sprinting at 31 miles an hour up to like 35 miles an hour. I'm trying to let people surge around me to give me some time to accelerate up to that speed because I don't want to just try to match it. But I still end up going with this attack, thinking, there's only like 10 people here. If I don't go with an attack, I'm off the back, right? But then she's like, okay, I've had my fun. Be cautious of this other rider. I'm chilling out now. Or I don't actually know what that hand signal means, but it definitely means, I'm so strong I don't need to be in an aerodynamic position while pulling at the front of this incredibly fast group ride. And for some reason, I'm still like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just be in the wind, at the front of my own little column. And here I'm just finally like, no, this is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. And I try to tuck in behind this guy. I'm like, look at this guy. He's like 7 feet tall. He's a good draft. I'll hang out with him for a bit. But nope, he goes into an attack as well. Or I don't know, he looks like he's attacking, but maybe he's just trying to rotate a little bit. But yeah, there he goes, he's attacking. So the group, as I learn here, will often form a rotating pace line because it's sort of like we're just trying to get downhill really fast, and that's the most efficient way to move. So we're all just trying to work together to have fun going fast downhill. But yeah, he looks at me like, "Are you gonna pull through?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what you're doing. Don't worry, guy. I'm gonna pull through. I'm just gonna take my time. I'm already trying to play a little bit defensive." So, I mean, I think I have the right idea here that I want to conserve my energy for this downhill section. I just get bored. I just lack the patience, and I do this stupid thing. So I'm not going super into the red. 260 watts. That's not super bad for me, but it is totally unnecessary. Like, why am I pulling Valley Ride as someone who's making a little documentary about learning to succeed in this ride? But yeah, I'm just chilling out, waiting for someone else to come around, and maybe the rest of the group is smarter than me. They don't want to be on the front at this point. And we've got a stop sign coming up, so that's part of it as well. There's going to be a stop and a left turn, and I'm at 170 beats per minute, and this was a downhill section. I should be recovering. I'm not recovered at all. I'm so unrecovered, you're going to hear, or rather not hear, a shift down. I'm going to be totally in the wrong gear, coming to a stop, and then I'm going to have to go right from this stop into a really fast section. So this is a section that I know from previous iterations of this ride. People like to go really hard here. There they go already. Bam. You know, I'm doing 500 watts and these guys are just zipping past me at speed. Pretty incredible. And guess what? This is Mountain Home. So this is the section where I got dropped last time, and you can see I'm desperate not to get dropped again. You can see the jerking of the camera from those accelerations. Every pedal stroke is a jerk. Elena's going all out here. The whole cast of characters is coming forward to drop me. And yeah, this is a mild uphill. You can see it's only like 2% uphill, roughly. And it only goes on for a minute. I mean, for mortals would do this in 2 minutes, but these guys are going to go through it in about a minute. And 400 watts, I was sort of sticking on, but I can't sustain that. So especially after this, you know, the entire rest of the ride. So I'm dropping back down to 300. They're getting tired too, but I'm getting tired faster than they are. And I'm like almost on, and I give it one final go out of the saddle, 500 watts, and then, whoop, that's it. I'm cracked. But I'm not the only one who's cracked. So the group's way up the road, and I'm thinking, hey, this guy, he's going to give me a ride. Please. But nope. He's not trying anymore. So I go to the next person. Is Elena gonna give me a ride? And the answer is sort of. This is still fast, but it's not fast enough. And she's looking around like, you gonna give me a ride? We're gonna get back on? And I'm thinking no. There's no way. As you can see, the group fade off into 2 pixels at the middle of the screen there. And hey, look who it is. It's another Mountain Home refugee. And at this point, I'm just thinking that I'm going to go to the regroup and meet up with the rest of everyone else after they've done their 5-minute climb and descent. But Elena's like, no, let's go do the climb ourselves. You know, forget the group. Let's at least finish the course, which I think is a really, really good attitude to have. It's a good attitude to have if you want to have a successful racing career. So we decide to go up and do the climb ourselves, not expecting to catch the group. And of course, at this point, I like haven't met Elena yet, so I have no idea that she's about to just absolutely destroy me on that climb. But sadly, I turned the camera off because I'm thinking, you know, this isn't even Valley Ride anymore. The Valley Ride footage has been recorded, the camera goes off. But something amazing happened. We actually managed to catch the regroup. So I thought we were like several minutes off and they were all going to regroup after descending and just start without us. But I don't know if maybe they were, you know, they got distracted or they didn't know how many people they were waiting for. But they started leaving right as we finished the descent. So we managed to catch them again. And best of all worlds, we got to do the full course and we got to regroup with the rest of the ride. So at this stage, we haven't really been racing since the regroup. We're just sort of making our way through town, chatting. And after the stop, we have one of these, you know, make your own ride sprint points. And this is my favorite. I mean, of all of the sections in this race, there are sprint points after this, and so people don't, not everyone wants to go 100% on this one because they're targeting something later. And the sort of crown jewel of the ride is the climb with the regroup. That's Huddart Park climb that you didn't get to see this time. But this is sort of a, you know, lower tier finale, and so I go for this one. This is something I can actually win, and it's like this 2-minute long 3-ish% grade climb, and for whatever reason that favors me massively. I can't sprint, I can't put the big watts down, but I can. This is sort of my version of a sprint, like 2 minutes, really quite hard, and I think a lot of people can go really hard for a minute, and then you just sort of get that lactate buildup, and you just crack. And I get that a little bit delayed. I can tolerate that lactic buildup a little bit more than other people, but I can't generate it super fast. So, I already got dropped today. I'm just trying to do enough to stick with the ride. I have no intention of pulling through. I'm just only up here so that when everyone swarms around, I have a head start. And so this is what I said about that lactic acid wall. This guy's just hit it. And I'm feeling not particularly bad. I mean, I'm like getting dropped a little bit, but I can tell you I wasn't feeling bad. The numbers are bad, right? My heart rate was like in the, getting up to 183. That's really close to my physiological limit. And yeah, I'm sort of metagaming the ride again here because I'm letting myself get dropped because I know that there's a light coming up and there's a light after that, and then a light after that, and a light after that, and it's almost guaranteed that one of those will be red and I'll be able to catch back on. Yeah, 193. This is probably erroneous. I don't think I can actually achieve 191 beats per minute anymore. And sure enough, very first light, red. And this is this little rise here is known as the Addison Wesley Sprint. And sometimes it's really intense, really contested as a sprint. I don't think this time people go for it as intensely because it's kind of awkward to do from a stop. Look at this, 40 miles an hour. now we have the lead up to the final sprint point. So there's sort of two little hills. Some people will go for the first one and not the second one, and I think the official end of the ride is the second hill. And you can see just in the preparation for that, we're doing 400 watts, 200 at the moment. So that's hill number 1. They've decided to take it easy, and now we're seeing the accelerations going into hill number 2. So I managed to stay with the very back for the sprint, which is honestly better than I do a lot of the time. But yeah, not making a huge effort to stay with the bulk of the group because it's time for me to get some celebratory burritos.